All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the third of our winter training sessions. And tonight we are going to get into the holistic objectives and how they relate to community cricket. So tonight we've got Nathan James taking us through that. And thank you to everybody for taking the time out of your Monday night to work on your umpiring and to add to your education. So as always, the sessions are recorded, and if you do drop out, you can always try and jump back in. If you have any questions, please use the raise your hand function or pop your questions in the chat and we'll go from there. But Nathan, on to yourself and let's get into the holistic objectives.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Evening, everyone. For those who are still recovering from the Brisbane seminar on Saturday, lucky you for getting training so soon. But to the rest of you, you're going to be putting up with my voice tonight. We're going to be talking about all things holistic objectives and how all of this applies to Premier and community cricket. So I suppose first things first, what are holistic objectives? So as match officials, we get so much information on what we should do to improve our umpiring, to improve the way we go about things in a manner of different things, whether it be how do we make better decisions, how do we look more fit, how do we look more professional, all that sort of stuff. So what we've been really lucky, particularly in a high performance space in the last couple of years from Cricket Australia, has been them passing down some holistic objectives, or basically what do they want to see from umpires. And most people would be surprised to know or unsurprised to know, I should say, it's not just as simple as count to 6, get your decisions right, and be able to construct a basic sentence. But what we have got is 10 very simple objectives, which we'll go through in a bit of detail tonight. And the idea about these holistic objectives is if you can demonstrate these on a regular basis, not only will it improve your on-field performance, it'll improve your off-field image and overall improve you not only as a match official, but also make you a better human. So what are the objectives? So they're up on the screen there for you. So we've got enjoyment, professional, communication, team first, coachable attitude, continuous improvement, rebound, prepared, committed, and leadership. And we're going to get into all of these and how we can use these week to week or day to day, whatever the case may be with your umpiring journey. So first things first, enjoyment. It's an absolute fact that particularly in our line of work on any given Saturday, if you don't enjoy what you're doing, you've really got to ask yourself the question, why are you doing it? I don't think anyone goes out there on a Saturday in 40-degree heat if they don't enjoy the game, or they certainly don't enjoy the challenge of umpiring. Either that or you might need to see someone about your potential mental state. So enjoyment. In 3 very basic words, the person is optimistic, the person's positive, and the person's grateful. So what do we mean by that? So the umpire enjoys the challenges of decision making and attends personal development workshops to improve their skills. So big tick in the box for all of you here tonight. You've ticked that box around PD workshops. Enjoys the pressure and responsibility that comes with the job. And when we say that, we're not looking for blokes that go out there on a Saturday looking to report all 22 players or fire all 22 blokes at LBW to show how good they are. It enjoys the pressure and responsibility of their judgment and skills around making the right decision, saying the right things, doing the right things. And last but not least, they look like they want to be there. So unlike our friend in the photo on your screen there, it's not about hands on hips, arms crossed, all that sort of stuff. You know, we talk about this at a very basic level all the time whenever we get together and discuss what should we look like when we're on the field. The overall impression you'd be giving off, even if you don't want to be there. And yeah, we've all been at those days where it's 40 degrees, we're copping grief from a fielding side because we've turned down every LB they've appealed for, and God knows they've appealed for about 7 every over, even though there's 6 balls, because they've appealed twice for the one on the first ball that they thought was actually close. Still give off the impression you want to be there. And for those who genuinely enjoy what they do, that won't be really hard. The next one, all about professionalism. So in a basic statement, promotes a positive image of both themselves and umpiring as a whole. So what do I mean when I say an umpire is professional? So takes responsibility for their own personal development and is proactive in seeking help and support to improve their game by either attending meetings or attending coaching sessions. Now, that's not just about you coming along once a month to your local association meeting or waiting for events like this to come on, which are obviously great development opportunities. But we've probably mentioned before things like downloading the MCC Laws of the Game app and testing your laws knowledge. When you go to a game, whether it be a BBL game at the Gabba, or you might just pop down to watch a rep game somewhere in your local area, actually go along to observe what your senior and high performance match officials do. I know it sounds really silly to pay all that money to sit there and watch umpires, but you're going to learn stuff from them. And what you can then do is take that back to your own game and go, oh, geez, I really like the way that that umpire handled that situation. You know, I saw him, you know, the players were really rolled up and in his face, but he calmed them down really well, and he managed to get the game going again without any real fuss or any real look like he had lost control of the game. That's all about your own personal self-development that you do yourself. But when you attend coaching sessions, obviously you take something out of it, and it might just be a small, you know, we talk about 1% all the time in any sport. Might just be that 1% thing you take out of a session like tonight. There you go. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna start doing that in my game, or, you know, I think I know what I'm doing there. I'm gonna continue doing that. Or actually, they've highlighted a really good point that I know that I have in my game. I'm going to stop. So it might just be that small little thing you take away to improve your game. But not only that, you promote the things that come out of these sort of sessions. So obviously there's 29 of us on tonight's call. Obviously a lot more umpires in Queensland than just 29 of us. Otherwise we've got a hell of a summer ahead of us, guys. But you know, taking that back to your local association, going, hey, the other night we spoke about holistic objectives. You know, what could we do as a group to be better? And just overall promoting that role of an umpire. And then on a game day or at any function relating to your association, that you dress appropriately. Now, I know it can get hot. I know we're not all going to rock up in suit and tie like they do over in England, but if your association has regulations around what you should wear to a game, then wear them. It sounds very cliche and it sounds, Yeah, it's a tough thing to have to do, but we do it because of the optics it gives off. It makes us look professional. You know, we might be turning up to our first grade game, for example. But if we turn up looking the part, then straight off the bat, we're not going to have people questioning why we should be there. They understand that, yeah, this person deserves to be there. Probably the most important one from my perspective, around communication. So again, as a basic standard, the umpire has excellent interpersonal and communication skills. So key things to take away here. So knowing the importance of body language, eye contact, facial expression, gestures, and tone of voice when communicating. So for those who have been on our previous sessions where we've talked about communication, little things like your tone of voice, the volume of your voice, depending on the conversation, you may need to vary that. Gesturing, understand from an outsider's perspective that you walking up to someone going, what's all this about? That just looks aggressive, and it doesn't look like you're in control. I think we spoke about in a previous session on communication, eye contact. Yep, most of us prefer eye contact with someone, but someone from an Asian or Middle Eastern background, that might be a sign of disrespect. So, sort of understanding the importance of needing to adapt to different scenarios and different people, and knowing what works and what doesn't work. And that only comes from experience, obviously, but you need to know the importance of being able to adapt to those scenarios. Likewise, knowing when to speak and when not to speak. So, a bowler who's bowled 6 overs in 40 degrees and has beat the bat 10 times, and the last ball of the spell, he nicks the ball and first slip drops it, and the swearing and the carrying on happens. Knowing the difference between, getting straight up in that bloke's face going, you can't swear, really getting up there and trying to stamp your authority versus, okay, I'm going to let him get it off his chest, and then I'm going to have a chat to him later about that. So knowing the time and place for that bit of communication. And last but not least, working to support colleagues at all times and being prepared to take the lead to establish effective communication. So what do we mean by that? So turn up on a Saturday, and your partner, first over the day, misses a massive caught behind, is the only person in the suburb who thinks that's not out. And the captain just gets stuck into him. The fielding side just gets stuck into him. And it doesn't matter what way he tries to communicate, it's just a dead end for him. Knowing that, being able to jump in and actually calm the situation or deal with the situation on that person's behalf and supporting them, taking the lead to ensure that, we work as a team, and we're still able to effectively communicate with everybody. That's the sign of a great umpire, and probably the difference between a good partner and a great partner. Mr. Malafont, hand up.
Thanks, mate. I'll just jump in quickly here, and just also sort of point out that all of these objectives also, as well as the importance of on-field appearance and doing these things on field, a lot of these reflect a lot of off-field times as well. So it's not just when we walk off the field, when we leave the ground. These objectives, these characteristics are what make ideal umpires off the field as well. So for something like communication as well, we talked about, turning up to PD days, meetings and things like that, engaging with it as opposed to sitting on your phone in the back of the room or talking to your friend, leaving the ground in a sort of friendly way, saying goodbye to people as opposed to trudging off with your bag, looking like you want to get out of there. It's sort of all encompassing. And you did illustrate that and talk about that it's a sort of personal characteristic. So all of these things that Nathan will go through, and who use a lot of on-field examples, but there are plenty of off-field examples too.
Yeah, you're 100% right, Mick. And as we said, the more and more you can practice this stuff, and it's why we call them holistic objectives versus just on-field objectives. It allows you to be a better umpire both on and off the field for not just yourself, but the wider umpiring group that you work with on a weekly basis. Probably leading into the next objective, team first. So, in essence, the umpire contributes to the shared values of umpiring. So what do we mean by that? So supporting their colleague and the umpiring team ethos at all times. So what do I mean by that? So let's say, for example, you're having a chat to a player at square leg, and your colleague at the other end has got a decision wrong, and the player is having a chat to you about that decision. You're going, yeah, no, it was a terrible decision. Only bloke I reckon in this suburb that didn't hear that edge. That's in no way, shape, or form what we want to see as part of that team first value. Likewise, supporting your umpire when they make a good decision. So, not standing out there and going, yeah, cheering them on, what a great decision, but just a little thumbs up, going, yeah, no, great decision, well done. Likewise, off the field, not engaging in those conversations where they go, oh, geez, boys, have you seen the umpiring in the test? We quite often obviously umpire when international cricket's on throughout the summer. Oh, boys, have a look at this. Have a look at this umpiring. It's terrible. Not engaging in bagging of officials, whether they be from your association, your state, even your country. The reality is, doesn't matter whether you're doing your first game, your 100th game, whether you're doing a sixth grade game, a first grade game, or a test match, we all know the challenges and the pressures that we get put under as match officials. So what's the use in bagging them publicly to other people as part of the game? It's just not the done thing. So if that's something that you do engage in, I highly recommend that you cut that out. The umpire demonstrates self-awareness of their role by acknowledging that they are part of an officiating community with shared values. So you'll quite often hear the old adage of it's not all about you, and the no dickheads policy. This is probably a nicer way of saying that. The reality is cricket's not about just the umpire. No one turns up on a Saturday to watch you guys umpire unless you're lucky enough to have an observer watching you, in which case, yeah, they are there to watch you and probably no one else. But the reality is a person on any given Saturday is not coming down to watch you umpire. They're coming down to watch a game of cricket. So you need to ensure that whether you're on the field, off the field, that you are aware of your actions and your words and the consequences they can potentially have. Supporting colleagues because they know it will increase their own capacity to overcome problems. So what do I mean by that? So when we turn up to our monthly training sessions, coming prepared with a scenario that, yes, you probably didn't handle all that well, or you're not sure if you handled it well or if you could have done things better. bring that to a training session and be open and willing to accept feedback from your peers, to allow you to grow as a person and as a match official. And likewise, be open to discussing and providing feedback to your other colleagues. Most of the guys here who have umpired with me in the last 12 months, is the first question I ask them when we come off the ground at the end of the day is, anything I could have done better? Or what did you think about this? And it's not because I'm looking for, yeah, no, you did a great job, well done. I'm not looking for praise. I'm looking for constructive feedback. So, you know, if I had 10 decisions for the day, they go, yeah, no, 9 of those, great, no issues, well done. But, you know, this, the 10th one might have been a run out at the bowlers, and, you know, oh, geez, you probably could have moved a little bit quicker, or you probably could have moved a little bit better, or been in a better position for that decision. Not looking for, you know, terrible decision, you know, and that really poor, non-constructive feedback. But that little 1%, if I'm getting that, you know, 2 or 3 times in a season, well, I probably have a problem, and I probably need to work on my game. It's being open to accepting those sorts of feedback, and willing to grow. And obviously, yes, not all feedback you're going to be able to action, or you necessarily believe you should action, but being able to accept that feedback and likewise be able to give feedback in a constructive manner to improve not just your umpiring, but the betterment of umpiring within your group. Coachable attitude. So demonstrating desire, passion, and a positive work ethic. So what do we mean by that? So again, we're talking about whenever possible, committing yourself to attending PD workshops. So again, tick the box, you've done that tonight, to ensure that you're fully informed. So a really good example I could give you is we're about to receive the playing conditions for the upcoming season. So I would be doing my absolute utmost to make sure that I'm at my next association meeting, so that I can test my interpretations of playing conditions against the rest of the group, and also get the learnings from your coaching groups, your senior members of your associations, to go, okay, this playing condition has changed. This is now what you're expected to do. And likewise, when someone gives you that piece of information, you take it on. As part of trying to be consistent, the number one thing that players hate, as we all know, is inconsistency in decision making. So if we as a group decide that, okay, this is how we interpret the offside wides for this season, and you go, you know what, no, I don't like the way that we're doing that, so I'm just going to do my own thing, that doesn't demonstrate a coachable attitude, does it? However, you going, no, look, I don't agree with that, but because we're trying to be consistent, I'm going to do it that way anyway. That demonstrates your ability to be coached as part of being a match official. You're able to identify your own learning needs and engage as the support of a mentor where appropriate. Now, a mentor doesn't have to be the number one umpire in your association. Doesn't have to be a coach, someone who's a registered coach or the nominated coach. It can just be a fellow colleague, someone who's got some more experience in the umpiring department than you do. And being able to go, you know what, I really wasn't comfortable with this scenario. Being able to go to that person and go, hey, this is what I did. Did I do the right thing? Could I have done something better? And likewise, if you're getting feedback to say, oh, you know, I've had 3 games in a row where I've had the feedback of, you know, I had an LBW that was too high. Not waiting for an official observation or something like that to tell you that, yeah, you need to do some work on your LBWs. Actually identifying that in yourself and trying to find ways to fix that. Which gets into our last point there, which is seeks to improve their game by being honest with themselves around self-appraisal and seeking constructive feedback. Now, whether we like it or not, self-appraisal is probably the biggest part of your learning. I think everyone would love to have their own personal coach. I think every association would love to have a professional coach in their group. Unfortunately, there's not enough coaches to go around, and there's not enough money in the world for people to do it. So the reality is the best person to construct or appraise your performance is yourself. And we're generally our hardest critic, but through both good and bad feedback around your self-appraisal, you'll be able to identify trends in your own game. And that's being honest with yourself, going, yeah, look, I know I gave that LB out, but thinking about it now, yeah, it was probably only just clipping leg stump. Being able to identify that and go, oh, geez, I've had a couple of weeks where I've thought about that. Probably need to fix that up in my game. Making yourself aware of things in your own game is the easiest thing to do, and it's something that we should expect, whether you're umpiring at the top or whether it's your first game out, whether you're umpiring in first grade, sixth grade, Z grade, whatever the case is. Hand up there from Mr. Skinner.
Yeah, just talking about self-appraisal, I think one of the other things is to think about any situations within your match that you might have had, especially if you've had an interaction with whether it's a captain or whether it's a particular player, and just having a think back and replaying it in your mind, whether it's at a session break or whether it's at the end of the day, and thinking, is there a way that I could have communicated my point better? Did I speak to that person in the way I would have liked to be spoken to, and how I felt at the time, and was I completely in control of myself as an umpire and as a communicator? So there's a lot that we can do in the self-appraisal space, even if we don't have a partner or an observer, or for some of us who've got video, Frogbox and that sort of stuff to refer back to.
Yeah, 100%. And just obviously on the last dot point there, it's okay to seek out constructive feedback as well. It's like what we said a couple of slides ago. Be willing to assist your fellow umpiring colleagues and provide them feedback. Again, you might get feedback from someone that you think at the time, yeah, you know what, that's useless. I'm not ever going to worry about that. But it might be 3 months down the track where you've got the same feedback from 2 or 3 other colleagues where you go, actually, you know what, I might have a problem here and I might need to fix something in my game. And it doesn't matter whether you are you've been doing it since the dinosaurs walked the earth, or you're brand new at this gig. Providing that feedback to your partner or to your umpiring colleagues is only going to better their skills as an umpire, but also the umpiring group. On the topic of coachable attitude, kind of rolls into the next objective, which is around continuous improvement or a growth mindset. So I probably talked a bit about this already, but what we're looking for is the umpire knows that in order to develop, they must use the critical feedback they receive. The umpire takes responsibility for acting on feedback, and they understand the value of critical feedback. So what are we talking about there? So if you get a piece of constructive feedback, take it for what it's worth. you have the right to do two things with that information. You can either go, yep, I'm going to do something with that and improve my game, or at least trial it to see if it improves my game, or I'm going to go, you know what? It might be some constructive feedback from a captain going, I thought that LB was too high. You might just go, yep, no worries, thanks for your feedback, and move on with life. But nonetheless, still taking that feedback on board, going, yeah, look, there wasn't, not out there looking to please everybody, but I take on board the feedback and I deal with it, or I discard it. Adversity or rebound is the objective, so has the capacity to bounce back from adversity. So what are we looking for here? So being prepared to be honest about their own performance, and they follow association guidelines on critical self-evaluation. They accept constructive criticism and prepared to learn from their experiences, and knows that feedback sessions are a rich source of data for them to use in their planning for personal development. So we've spoken about it a bit tonight, but outside of obviously critiquing your own self-performance, we've talked about bringing examples to your monthly coaching sessions or your monthly meetings and going, hey, had this happen, I did this, and here's why I did it. Appreciate some feedback, and you'll get some good feedback and you might get some constructive feedback. Being able to bring that back to your game, being prepared to say, yeah, you know what, I got that wrong. But then putting steps in place to make sure that you learn from that mistake. So you might get a playing condition wrong, for example. You might play an old power play regulation in the new season, for example, and game one, it's not until the second innings that you realise, oh, geez, I've got that wrong. That's not a thing anymore. Trust me, it happens. I think we've all probably lived through something like that. But it's being strong enough to go, yep, got that wrong. Deal with it at the time as you need to, but not then letting that error impact the rest of your performance for that day, that match, or the rest of your season. It's inevitable. As humans, we're going to make mistakes. It's about how we come back and learn from those experiences is what we're chasing. Is that your hand up there, John? You're on mute there, mate.
I'm unmuted.
Yeah, there you go, mate. Go for it.
Has it ever occurred where you've realised between giving a decision of out and before the next ball is bowled that you made a drastic incorrect decision? Have you ever reversed it in that situation?
I can't say that I've personally been in that situation, mate, but luckily enough, the bloke in this photo certainly has. It's a really tough one because it requires you openly at the time going, yep, I've got that wrong. I need to fix that straight away. And there's some scenarios where you go, yep, I can do that, and people will accept that. And there's times where you can't do that. So a good example might be using a fielding restriction as an example. You might be getting ready to call no ball, first ball of a new power play, when in fact that restriction doesn't apply. So you've called no ball, but you've realised before the next ball's bowled that, hang on a minute, they're actually fine, that we don't need to no ball them for that breach. So yeah, reverse that. Don't allow a free hit. Don't allow that mistake to manifest into something greater. Yep, that's fair enough. But likewise, if you've given an LB and 3/4 the way off the batter, you realise the batter smashed the ball. I'm not gonna recommend that you change your decision and bring the batter back. But yeah, certainly in certain scenarios, I'd 100% say, yep, you're going to have to do that. Certainly not a nice feeling, as Mr. Kosh will attest to in this scenario.
I had a situation a couple of years ago where towards the end of the innings, 7 of the batting side fell for about half a dozen runs. And the last given out was me giving out the captain, LBW. And I was about to actually cross my hands and say, no, that's wrong, when the captain gave me an earful. Absolutely got stuck into me. And I just quietly said, I think in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, well, stuff you, mate, you're gone anyway. But I didn't sleep for the next 4 nights thinking about it.
Yeah, and look,
about to change the hand.
Yeah, and look, not a great scenario to be in one way or the other there, mate. But yeah, it's really a gut feel decision, that one. Certainly, if it's not going to be further detrimental, you can look at reversing that decision. But yeah, I think the biggest thing.
At the end of the day, I apologise if I got it wrong, and I said it seemed like I must have. And at the end of the game, they gave me 9 out of 10, probably W, believe it or not.
Yeah, and look, that sounds like the mark of, outside of the gobful, which is obviously never acceptable. Sounds like the mark of a relatively level-headed person. The biggest thing though for yourself is around that ability to bounce back from that decision. So yes, certainly take on board that obviously the decision manifested within you for a few days. You said you weren't able to sleep for a few days. Yeah, look, we've all been there.
I saw it help and I was okay after that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But the biggest thing is not letting that impact the next game, the rest of your season, and so on and so on and so on. It's learning from that mistake and being able to move on, and ideally move on in the moment, but obviously bouncing back from that mistake as soon as you can. So, but thanks, mate. That's a really good point and a really good example there. We might move into one that we spend probably a lot of time on around this time of year, and it's around preparedness or preparation. So an umpire being focused, thorough, and organised. So what are we wanting to see in this regard? So someone who ensures that their mind is uncluttered and prepared for umpiring. Now, on any given Saturday, I know the pressures that we go through day to day. I know most of us work full time and a lot of work at the moment. If you're lucky enough to get to the end of a week and still feel refreshed, keep that job. Because you're going to need it. But if you're like me, you get to the end of a week and you're absolutely knackered. You've got to find a way, as hard as it is, to wipe that from your mind when you get out to a ground to umpire a game. A little tip or trick that I learnt from Damien Mealy many years ago. Was picking parts in your commute to and from a game where your sole focus is on cricket. So for him, it used to be he would cross a number of side streets on his way to and from a game. So he picked the second side street from his house. So when he left home, got to that second point, anything outside of cricket, gone. Not focusing on that, not worrying about that. Going to come back to it because obviously it's still important in life, but not dealing with that at the moment. Likewise, when you're done with your day, He'd picked that second last straight on the drive home, and as soon as he got to that point, that's cricket done, gone. So he might have had a terrible day on the field. Not worried about that anymore, not letting that impact home life, family life, work life. So it's about trying to find that balance mentally to ensure that you're prepared to give your best, even if you're not at your best. We're looking for someone who demonstrates that they're thoroughly prepared for their duties. So most of us on here probably umpire a Saturday and a Sunday game, and they're probably two different competitions. Knowing the difference between your playing conditions for those games. For me, it's thinking about, okay, well, I've probably got a red ball game on a Saturday and a white ball game on a Sunday. So what differences in my kit do I need to pack? All those little things to deal with, but demonstrate ideal preparation. Looking ahead a few days before a game and seeing what the weather forecast is. So you go, oh, yep, I'm going to Ipswich this weekend. I know it's going to be about 50,000 degrees, as it always generally is in Ipswich. I'm going to hydrate a bit better than I normally would. Or I've looked at the forecast and we're expecting rain this weekend and I've got a one-day game. Well, I'm going to put together some scenarios so that I can be as prepared as I possibly can be when that rain hits. All of these are ideal preparation scenario. The last one sort of goes without saying, but I will repeat it because it is probably the most critical part of umpiring. And it's that the umpire is confident of their knowledge and understanding of the laws and relevant playing regulations for the grade in which they stand and follows the recommendation of their association in applying them. You'll hear me say it week in, week out, day in, day out. Players will generally accept an incorrect decision, or they'll forgive you for an incorrect decision eventually. But you lose any respect, you lose any way of comeback in a game if you don't understand and know your laws and your playing conditions. A wise mentor of mine once said, feel free to be wrong with a decision, but never be wrong on a point of law. So no one's ever expecting you to know what law 41.8 is. I can't tell you what that law is off the top of my head, but I can tell you if that was relating to obstructing a batsman, I could tell you exactly what needs to happen in that scenario. So knowing what to do when a scenario comes up, and you might need 30 seconds to go, whoop, dead ball, what's just happened, but being able to arrive at an answer that satisfies your laws and playing conditions is the number one thing. So I'll never get tired of saying it, but it will help you in the long run. Always study your laws, always study your playing conditions. And when you think you know them all, do it again. Commitment. And geez, it's a big commitment these days, isn't it? Again, for those who umpire all year round, don't know how you do it. Can't do it myself personally. But seasons seem to be getting longer and longer. Back when I was playing, we never played cricket in August, but we seem to do that now as part of our summer season. But commitment, so looking for someone who can prioritise within their personal and professional life. So at a community level, what we're expecting, someone who can put their family and job first to achieve balance and stability in their life. Because without your balance and stability, you're going to be useless on a Saturday or a Sunday. We all know that. We all think that we do a great job with that too, but we generally don't. So it's all about those little things to make sure that we have balance and stability. Maintains an appropriate level of fitness to cope with match conditions and length. Now, we're not athletes. We'd like to be, but it's about an appropriate level of fitness for the game you do on a Saturday. So if you feel the need to be able to run 5K, props to you. You're doing better than me. But you need to be able to get to the line on a regular basis or as often as you possibly can. You need to be swapping sides with a left and right hand bat as much as you possibly can. And you need to be able to do that for 6 hours at a time, 7 hours at a time, potentially over a couple of days. And you might have to do that in back-to-back 40-degree days. So an appropriate level of fitness, walking on a regular basis, making sure you've got plenty of Ks in your legs when you get to round one of your season, because you can always build on your fitness during a pre-season, but you'll find it even harder once you get to round one and you're into the season to be trying to do things in your spare time, because you'll be surprised how little spare time you get once we get to round one. And last but not least, I think we've covered this one off pretty well tonight, but is committed to gaining as much experience as possible in order to prepare themselves for the unexpected. So whether that be through PD sessions, whether that be through umpiring a midweek game, if you're available. Obviously, not all of us can do that, but if you've got the time, go and do it. You're not going to be disadvantaged by doing it. You might see something that you've never seen happen in a game of cricket. And obviously junior cricket's great for that. It's a great test of your knowledge of laws. When you got balls bouncing off the pitch, balls stopping before they get to the batter, all those sort of fun things that we generally don't see too often in a senior game. But if we get it wrong, boy, do we remember it in a senior game versus a junior game. Making yourself available as much as you can, doing as much cricket as you can, it only benefits you. And then the last objective that we're going to talk about tonight is around leadership. So being able to be approachable, be accessible, and be authentic. So the 3 points here, so work to support their colleague at all times and is prepared to take the lead on this and establish effective communication. We've already spoken about that tonight and some examples around that. Is committed to improving their communication skills as an essential element to the game. So get out of your comfort zone. If talking to players around hard scenarios, like a ground weather and light scenario, is bad for you, the only way you're going to learn and be better is to actually do it. Learn. And last but not least is able to demonstrate that they're a facilitator of the game by being open to discussion. So obviously time and place for things like this. But being open to discussion around feedback, being able to discuss decisions, things that might have happened in a game post-match. So not just getting off the park going, yep, job done, I'm out of here, see you later. Being open to having a discussion. For the sake of 5 minutes, it makes you look a better person because you're open to feedback, you're open to having a chat about how the game went. And, a captain might be looking for some advice, particularly young captains. They might be looking for some advice on how they can be better. And you can potentially be offering that to them as well. So that is our holistic objectives for the night. Are there any questions? Like I said, if you start to embody a lot of the things that we talk about tonight, your on-field performance can only improve. Your off-field image will be better. I can promise you that. And whether you like it or not, you will improve as a person, not just as a match official. And I think that's a really good point to end things on tonight. So I'll throw back to Mr. Skinner.
No worries. Thank you, Nathan, for tonight's session, and I hope that all of you have found it beneficial and helpful. We'll put out a copy of the recording tomorrow, as we usually do, and we will have a session. Our last winter session will be next month. Also, just a shameless plug for our Laws of Cricket sessions, the third of which is tomorrow night. So if you haven't signed up for that already, I will put the link in the chat. But wishing you all a good rest of your Monday night, and thank you once again for putting into your education as an umpire. We'll see you all soon.